Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel, where we'll bring the panel on shortly to discuss the game on Saturday. Just a few bits. You may have seen on socials, and our members would have got an email that the end of the season presentation evening is now live to book. It's on the 11th of April, which is a bit earlier this year, but it's what the date we had so the players can attend. So if you want to attend, go to our website, stfc-osc.com, and you can book there. Okay, we'd love to see as many of you as possible on the evening. So let's bring Vic on. So I know Vic's got some notices to give. Good afternoon, evening, whatever.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Yes, indeed. Yeah, actually, we should mention that we've got an extra on the sofa tomorrow night, Chris.
Oh, yes, we have. So Colin Coldwood is joining us tomorrow evening. We've booked up till the end of the season with guests on a Monday. So with a bit of negotiation, we've managed to get Colin in tomorrow, which is a great privilege, and I'm sure I'll go all of a tither. But hey, that's how it is. One of my favourites.
Excellent. Right, well, let's talk SAS travel now. Phone bookings only tomorrow, and that's for Mansfield and Walsall. Now, not open on Thursday, as of course it's the FA Youth Cup quarter-final at Bristol. The coach leaves the county ground for that, by the way, at 4:30. And if you're going to Mansfield on Saturday on SAS travel, that leaves the county ground at 9:30. And we should say many congratulations to the Academy's under-16 team, who were crowned Youth Development League Southwest winners for the second year running. You might have seen that trophy presentation at halftime on Saturday. Many congratulations to them. The under-18s, of course, very much looking forward to that game at Bristol City. 7 o'clock kickoff at Ashton Gate. And 1,000 tickets have been sold so far, which is fantastic news. So it should be great atmosphere at Ashton Gate. And let's hope the boys get through to that semi-final. I believe it's Man City they meet in the next round. So,
is it? They beat Tottenham, did they?
So I believe that's right. So that's quite a test, but let's hope they get past City on Thursday. And a little bit of news from the women's team. They're playing Bridgewater Town on Sunday, next Sunday, 2 o'clock in the Women's National League, that at Bridgewater. And they've recently signed Hattie Jones on a dual registration from Forest Green Rovers. So there we are, a bit of news from the women's team as well.
Can I ask a question? What is dual registration? Is it mean she's registered with both teams?
I guess so. I wish you hadn't asked me that question.
Maybe we'll find out the answer by somebody.
Well, we have somebody who's involved with a youth team as well, so on the panel tonight, so you might be able to answer that.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. So we'll wait and see. Okay, so let's bring the panel on. So tonight we've got Andy.
Good evening.
Rob,
evening all.
We've got Andrew, and our special guest, we've got Mr. Bowden. There we go.
Evening.
So I will leave you. Any comments, leave for us, and we'll get through as many as we can. Okay, and I'll see you later.
Thanks, Chris, very much indeed. I'm delighted that you're with us, Mr. Bowden, tonight, and doubly delighted because we talked on the pitch before the game on Saturday, and you gave some fantastic news. So, and I know you've spoken to Andrew about it as well. So if you just want to relay the news that you had prior to Saturday, it's fabulous news, and we wish you well, but away you go.
Yes, thanks very much. On the 22nd of February, I had blood tests the previous week, and on the 22nd of February, I met my surgeon who performed my operation, and he gave me the good news that the operation went very well, and more importantly was the blood tests from the previous week were back up to the normal level for someone of my age. So absolutely fantastic news. It's anyone who's gone through the same thing, it's tough kind of in between times when you're not meeting the doctors or you're not getting your results. So that particular moment was a huge relief for myself, family, and obviously close friends who were all keen to hear the news. So it's one of them things, you're going into the doctors and you don't quite know what it could be one way or the other. So I'm kind of always an even keel, but I was certainly delighted when he gave me that positive news for sure.
Absolutely, so you should be. And as I said to you on Saturday, you can think about something else now, can't you? Which must be great.
Well, absolutely. Like I said, I'm quite a level-headed person, and I know there was always two ways which it could have gone. So everybody's sort of saying, "Yeah, you'll be fine, you'll be fine." But in the back of my mind, personally, I was always thinking, "What if it's not?" So I always had that in the back of my mind. And like I said, thankfully now I can just look forward, plan some holidays, spend time not worrying what the next doctor's appointment will bring. You know, the next thing for me now is a 3-month blood test in 3 months' time, and then the same thereafter. And then hopefully it'll be 6 monthly, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be annually as it has been. So, yeah, really good news. And I'd like to thank, and I've thanked a lot of people over the last few days and, well, since the results, but, you know, everybody who's really supported me, you know, really do thank them. There have been tough times, obviously, but without everybody's support, you know, it would have been a lot tougher. So thanks to everybody for all their support.
But I think you also would say that if you have any doubts or you get things checked early, that's the best thing to do, isn't it?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll reiterate, really. I mean, going back to when I was diagnosed, I mean, I had no symptoms, none at all. It was a complete shock to find that I had prostate cancer. Nothing wrong, no funny feelings, no water problems, nothing. So when you get told and you feel, I always thought I was in a dream because I just didn't think that I actually had the cancer because I wasn't living a lie or anything like that. But because I felt absolutely fine, it was a very strange thing to be told, but one that you obviously have to take very, very seriously.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you very much indeed for sharing that message, and we're delighted for you. That's all I can say. And I've got lots of messages coming in already. You won't be surprised to know. From James Spencer, brilliant news, Paul. So pleased for you and the family. From Nick Smith, having done numerous sponsored walks in aid of prostate cancer research, would Paul be interested in something similar? Maybe we could involve the supporters club and the football club. Hey, why not? Yeah, yeah, you'd be interested in that?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Open with all the support and everything I've had, and the NHS were unbelievably fantastic with myself from start to finish. I mean, I can't thank them enough, and I have already said that I'll donate some money to their charity because they do need the extra funding for sure. And when the opportunity arises, come next April, when we're having the 93 reunion, we'll be raising money for prostate cancer. For sure.
Brilliant. Fabulous. And let's have a look. More messages. This is from Dad St. George. Now, my apologies, Paul, because he's written it in Welsh, and I've got Welsh origins, and so I should be ashamed of myself if I don't get this right. Dad says, "Nathwaith dda, Paul." Fantastic news. I think that's what it means. I don't know if that was right, but anyway. I did my best. Gary says, "Hi, Zippy. Brilliant news for you." Steve says, "Great news, Paul. So pleased for you." And Mitch says, "Evening all. I can't tell you how pleased I was to hear the good news. You play a very important part in the history of our club. Love the comms too. Keep well, Paul." Ben says, "Hi, Paul. Really nice to hear the good news. Hopefully catch up for that coffee soon, mate. Take care." From Ben from Mercedes in Swindon. So already the good wishes are coming in. So there we are. How about that? It's all right, isn't it?
No, it's brilliant. Thank you very much. And I'll take Ben up shortly on that coffee for sure.
Excellent. Well, if we do organise that walk, we'll be in touch. Is that okay with you?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to participate for sure. As long as there's no runs involved, just walk. We'll
get Lou Macari in to help. Yeah.
Oh, do the old 5-7 mile walk as opposed to run we used to do most Thursdays.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, that's fabulous news, and I think everybody applauds that, and we wish you well with that. But I think you'd also just like to talk about football for a while, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. And it was my first game back actually was the Bradford live game which was Gavin Gunning's first game, and that was a very good performance, good win. Although I thought on the day Bradford weren't very good, but it's always nice to win a home game, and unfortunately we didn't quite get there on Saturday, did we? Which was my most recent game.
Yeah, you were with Mr. Halls, of course. Always a pleasure. How is he to work with? Is he okay?
Very good, very thorough, very professional, and he's always a good ally, obviously.
Marvellous.
Pass the cash on. That's nice.
Right. Well, let's get on to Saturday then. Obviously, a 1-1 draw against Harrogate. First of all, Andrew, when you got the team sheet through, were you a little surprised about the selection?
Yes, I think I was to some extent. I think we're fairly used to Gavin Gunning mixing it up at this point, not entirely through his own choice. I think, somehow managed to introduce the word minutage into the football lexicon, that the players are on a number of minutes, but I'm not sure I expected him to mix it up quite so much. I thought it was quite interesting Ricky Aguiar was starting in midfield into back-to-back games, because remember last season, that seems neon ago, he had one league start up at Bradford, and that was it. So yeah, I think I was a little surprised to see him sort of retain his place, not particularly because of this performance against Tranmere, but just because he hasn't played that much, he hasn't really been on the bench that much, and then he's suddenly back in. So I'm not so much surprised Charlie Austin didn't start after 2 starts in a row. So I think you expected it to be sort of mixed up to some extent, but we're hopefully at the very conclusion, or we maybe even have finished now the minutage era. So hopefully the manager has a free hand for the last 10.
Robert, the surprise that Ricky Aguiar was in from the start, but I think you're also surprised that he went off at half time.
I thought he played extremely well first half. Yeah, I mean, in a poor performance, he seemed to be the standout player for me. I have to say, I thought he controlled most of the game when the ball came near him. He certainly looked a threat, and he was able to free the forwards. The one for me, Andrew's touched on most of the players, but if you're a centre forward and you score 2 goals in the game before, I think you earn the right to start the following game, don't you? And I was very surprised to see Russian Hepburn Murphy on the bench, I have to say, and Harry McCurdy starting as well after giving all the indications that he can only really play 30 to 45 minutes at the moment was a surprise too. I think probably in hindsight wasn't the best team selection from the start. I think could have mixed it up a little bit too much on Saturday, and that caused let's just say poorish performance in the first half, because it wasn't thrilling, was it? I have to say, but at least we retained our unbeaten record of 2 games. So let's look on the bright side.
Yes. Andy, your thoughts on Saturday? I mean, I think by common consent, the first half was, how can we put this? Not good. I think that's the best way I could say. What were your thoughts on Saturday?
Well, it surprised me because Harrogate obviously still got a chance of sort of getting into the playoffs and what have you. And it just had a feel of almost like an end of season game. Sort of 11 games out. Like you say, there was comments made about the quality of the pitch. There's the comments made about 3 games in 8 days, etc. And I do accept that the players that have come in, a lot of those players haven't. It's almost a bit like a pre-season, isn't it? Those players haven't had the opportunity to get up to speed. The reason why they've come into us in a January window is because they've probably not been playing for their respective clubs. So I understand that there's had to be a sort of bit of rotation. Personally, I think it's probably a bit too much, and as like the gentlemen have already alluded to, it causes sort of a bit confusion. Players don't really know, do they? If they like a settled team, don't they? And so if you're changing things around, like absolutely right, Russian Hepburn Murphy, he should have started. So I think that added all of that in the pitch, added it all to sort of a bit of confusion. And did he not say that the substitutions at half-time were out of anger? And I did feel Ricky Aguiar was unlucky. That was one of his better games.
Yeah, Paul, obviously you played in a settled team, I think 26, 27 games in a row or something like that. But, do you change a winning team? I mean, the old adage is you don't, but can you see the reasons why?
Well, I think I touched on it on Saturday after the game, that players now get judged on what they do, on a daily basis. The GPS is on from Monday to Friday. Obviously, the players played on Tuesday, so they're loading what their general capacity is. Have they overreached? Have they underachieved? Are they coming back from injury? So there's a lot more goes into seeing if a player fit, rather than just looking back to the last game and judging him on his last performance. When we played, as you said, 1 or 2 players didn't really bother training, and they were allowed to because their Saturday performances were outstanding. So what they did in the week was kind of just manage themselves, where you're not allowed to do that anymore. you have to attain certain levels on a daily basis. And if you're not quite achieving them, then the manager will obviously wonder why, or he will look to his performance guys, the analysts, the physios, and if they're not quite reaching certain standards, then they probably don't play. Or if they're overachieving, like they might have exerted themselves in a game on a Tuesday, then they think they need a rest. But I mean, my argument to it is, if you're not challenged, you're not pushed, how does your body become more robust? You know, a lot of teams, and let's be fair, most teams do it around the country nowadays. They do talk about minutes. They do talk about resting players, you know. So it's not an uncommon thing in football. But I just wonder, you know, and the younger generation coming in, they almost are happy to accept not playing as well, some of them. I mean, I heard Charlie's comments, to be fair, and obviously he's a little bit older, and he wants to play every game, every minute. Now, is it physically possible for a 34-year-old? Probably not. But he wants to start every game. And if he's on that pitch, there's a chance he'll score a goal, because that's what he does for a living. He scores goals. 199 goals is fantastic achievement. And I'm sure he'll get his 200th goal very, very soon. So is it the modern player? Is it the modern amount of staff that you've got around the club, you know, telling the manager, well, we need to rest him, he's liable for an injury or to pick up something? Or is it someone coming back from an injury? Will he last 60 minutes today, but then he might be ready for Saturday? So I think that there is a little risk when you are coming back from injury, there's no doubt. Players who've not done a pre-season, or players who've just joined the club who haven't been playing regular. Yeah, you can build them up to a certain level, but without the games, you never know if they're capable of completing them anyway. So I'm still a little bit in the old school, if you like, in terms of players should play if they feel ready, and they're the guide. You know, you ask a player, I know most of them would say, yes, I want to play. But if you do genuinely feel a little bit fatigued, or your hamstrings are tight, or your calves, then perhaps you shouldn't be involved at all, rather than trying to come off the bench when allegedly you're fatigued from the Tuesday night.
Well, Daniel has sent a message in saying that you've made a great point Saturday, that there is too much sports science. I'm just wondering what Lou would have said if you just said, you know, I'm feeling a little bit fatigued. I mean, what would have been his reaction have been?
Well, he would have just laughed. He would have laughed at you. If he picked you, you play. Simple as that. It's interesting. When I started working with Wales, there was Tony Strudwick, who was performance analyst and performance director for Wales. And he worked with Sir Alex Ferguson for 20 years. Came into the Welsh setup with Ryan Giggs because Ryan knew what his capabilities were. And Tony always told us, whatever club you're at, don't let the sports science take over, because they will. They want to dictate what happens to all the players on a daily basis. Make sure if you're the first team coach, you dictate to them, you get the best out of them. He said, because I know what I was like. But he said, there's no way I would ever tell Fergie what players to pick and what not. I would give him guidance, but ultimately it's up to the manager to decide.
Fair enough. More questions coming in. Sean says, evening, Paul. I couldn't watch your penalty at Wembley. Many didn't, because of that reason, I guess. Let's have a look. Kevin says, good news, Paul. Thank you for your penalty against Leicester. I think we all thank you for that. Right. Does the club know at this point, if in the season, which are the out-of-contract players they want to keep? If not, why? That's from Nev. Andrew, question for you, because we are coming up to that point of the season, aren't we, where some people need their contract renewed and some don't. Do we know what the situation is?
I mean, officially, you know, when you ask Gavin Gunning, or you've asked the players so far, the ones that we know are out of contracts, it's a bit opaque on some of them, but not all of them. There hasn't been anything done, but it would seem extraordinary if Jamie Russell and co were not mulling through that, and I guess it may ultimately perhaps be more his decision, depending on whether they want to go forward with Gavin Gunning or not. But officially, we've not really kind of heard that they've definitely made decisions or not. So we're assuming they're planning, but you know, we're touching wood and leaving that to judgment rather than having definitive proof.
Fair enough. Okay, because we are coming up to that time of the year, aren't we? So I've no doubt.
I should say, yeah. So I should say that some of the players, because some of the new ones especially, have a kind of club option on them. So, you know, Bycroft, Glatzel, McGurk, the the club has the chance to sort of trigger another year's extension, so they don't have to sort of panic about them immediately because they've got that. They can kind of, I think my understanding is they can sort of push the button on those as when if they want to.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let's have a look. More questions. Anthony says too many changes for me, especially given we won last Tuesday night. Gavin needs to start going with the best team every week now. Let's have a look. Steve says, great news, Paul. Now you can enjoy life and all the best for the future. Why, oh, why are we so poor at corners, says Graham. Never a threat. We need to improve. Rob, I will give that one to you because I sit in front of you every week and I hear you say exactly the same thing.
We never score from corners. We never score from corners. It's just ridiculous. I don't know how many years we've been saying that now. It's madness, isn't it? I mean, okay, for a couple of seasons, we never really had that big, powerful, dominant centre half, which Paul will have been very used to in the team that he played in. But we've never really fulfilled that obligation, have we, over the course of the last few years? And we suddenly signed a couple of relatively bigger centre halves in this transfer window. And Farrell Johnson's now out for the season, isn't he? Which would have been one of those options, I guess. But I can't fathom it. I really, really can't fathom it. I mean, every other team we seem to play against look a real threat at corners. And whenever we get a corner, you just make sure that you've got enough players back on the halfway line for the break. Because that's the only thing that potentially is going to happen from that. We could concede rather than score. It seems totally illogical. It really does. But they've been a little bit more adventurous this year, I would say. When Dan Kemp was with us, for certain, we took a few more shorter corners. We had a few more different options. But still then, we just cannot score from a corner. I think the last time we scored from a corner was a Newport-headed own goal, wasn't it? I think that was the last time we scored a corner set piece.
Wow.
Such a long time ago.
Says it all. Hi, Phil. Saturday highlighted our key weakness. The midfield are too weak for this league. The back four are exposed by the midfield weakness, so under pressure. The forwards lack support from midfield. Khan coming back into the team slowed the whole play down. However, if the manager puts out the right first team at Mansfield, we could put out a shock. And I know, Andy, you're quite confident about it. Well, I don't know about confident about Saturday, but you think there's a possibility of a surprise?
Well, I mean, you just got to look at the last two times we played Mansfield, didn't it? We scored 8 goals against them. The away game last year was possibly our season's highlight, wasn't it? Winning 5-2 there. And of course, we beat them at home here. Come on, let's be realistic. We're not going to go up, are we? We're not even going to get in the playoffs now. So let's be realistic and enjoy the next 10 games. So it's effectively a free hit on Saturday, isn't it? Let's go out there and enjoy it. We have been playing some good football. Going forward, it's been quite exciting. It's been times when it's been really enjoyable. So go out there with the freedom and, go and shock them.
Yeah, Mansfield away Saturday, then followed by 2 home games. Accrington, who've just sacked John Coleman, and then Doncaster at home. So 2 in a row again. Right. Sean says, any of the panel going Thursday? Brilliant, over 1,000 to back the boys. And Thursday, of course, is Bristol City away in the FA Youth Cup quarter-final. Hands up who are going. I'm going. Rob's going. You go. We're all going. Brilliant. Now, let me talk to you about this, Paul, because you've been involved in youth setups. I mean, it's a fabulous performance to get past Man United, first and foremost, one of the great youth teams, really, of the country. But to get to this stage, how good an achievement is that?
Well, it's incredible, really. I mean, as you mentioned there, Man United, Luton, clubs who are Category 1, which basically there's 4 categories, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 is the top sort of Premier, where they put in probably 2 to 3, 4 million pounds a year in. Category 2 is sort of up 1, 2, 3 million. Category 3, where Swindon are, it's probably around £500,000 to run that for the full season. And then Category 4 is reduced down again to a couple of 100,000, where you've just got a youth team and I think an under-16s. So there's various categories, and they all comply with the EPP, the Elite Player Performance Plan, which started in about 2012, just as I was sort of finishing really at Swindon. And it's a phenomenal achievement. What they've done so far is incredible. And fingers crossed they can go, that one step further on Thursday night. But no, I don't think you can underestimate it. They've obviously got a very good team. But predominantly your youth team is to produce players for the first team, and that'll be the main source, really. I mean, it's great to have these kind of season highs in terms of cup runs, but which of these players, and hopefully we'll have a few of them on Thursday where the spotlight is really on them. This will probably be as big a spotlight. A good contingent of Swindon fans going down. There'll be a good Bristol City support. Fantastic stadium. I've been there many times over the last few years. So what a place to highlight your skills, and from a coaching perspective, they've got it right. I hear all the stories about the Man United game where they literally nullified Manchester United down to very few opportunities. And when you're doing that and they were unbeaten, I think, Man United as well. So, I mean, that's incredible. So I'm really looking forward to it. Woody is a really good, experienced coach. He's not just turned up in the youth team this year. He's been around the club for 15 years. So he's done his apprenticeship. He's worked through all the young age groups, from the little babies doing their laces up and picking them up off the ground and, looking after them, to now he's the under-18s head coach. And you just can't underestimate what's happened so far. And the disappointment of Saturday, losing the league by, the crazy goal in the 94th minute will be disappointing, but they've got the fantastic opportunity to showcase all their skills on Thursday night.
Yeah, and also, of course, the under-16s, as we said earlier, won their league as well. So it does augur well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, producing players that play in the first team, that really is, and all fans would love to see a team with a lot of local players, wouldn't they? And that would be a fantastic thing. No,
absolutely. And of course, I think one of the big things they've touched on, and Woody's mentioned it in a few of his interviews on BBC Wiltshire Sound, is the fact that I think Flinney, because of the squad he had at the start of the season or throughout the early part of the season, I think a lot of them were training with the first team. And there's no doubt, if you can bridge that gap, because 18s to seniors is a big gap. But if you're training on a regular basis and playing against the first team in practice matches, that'll really put you in good stead. And that was something that we had the link on occasion. Certainly Danny Wilson was very pro youth. And then unfortunately, Paolo was completely the other way, my sort of last part at the club. So you need that integration. You need the opportunities to train and play with the first team. And then, of course, it's the only way really to prepare you when you do get that first team opportunity. Another couple of opportunities arose this year in the, I keep calling it the Papa John's, but it's the Bristol Street Motors. In a couple of them games where the younger teams went out. Reading, I was at that one with Andrew. Also the return, Exeter game, the last game, there was nothing on it. But they are great and golden opportunities that some of the younger players may never, ever get again. That could be the highlight of their careers, because, the youth team football is one of the hardest jobs in the club, because you've got these players in the club from 8 years of age. They get to 18, they've done their second year scholarship, and you have to be the one that tells them, they're not going to be given a pro contract. That's heartbreaking for everybody involved, because a lot of these boys, perhaps will never ever reach, the heights that they reach at that level. So it's very, very difficult job. But they all start out, whether you're 6, 7, 8 years of age, hoping and praying that they'll, become a professional footballer and play for Swindon Town, their hometown club, one day.
Oh, fantastic, wouldn't it? Are you doing commentary on it, Andrew? Are you doing it live or?
We are hoping to, though it seems all a bit complicated, especially as the club can't stream it. Unfortunately, there are some.
No,
I believe they've got some rights problems rather than unwillingness on their part. I think they're deeply frustrated they can't. So the intention certainly is I think we've just got to finalise things and sign off a little bit. But hopefully we will be, at least if given the club especially can't put it on their YouTube channel, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, because they've had great viewership, I think, throughout this cup run, haven't they? So it's been a real success. Okay, let's get back to the first team. And Adrian says, play Austin alongside Glatzel. We have a great chance. Any other combination, no chance. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew? I mean, Glatzel, he looks a player, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, I think Glatzel's one of the brighter spots you'd take from a not very bright season so far. They don't really want to seem to play with the orthodox sort of two up front. They seem to prefer the sort of striker down the middle and the two wide players, which kind of suits perhaps arguably the squad they've got a bit more, because you have kind of Austin and Drinnan as your two big sort of imposing figures, and the rest are a bit more sort of slight and mobile. But Glatzel is hopefully someone who can provide value this season and next season. I'd be quite interested to see how they did as a partnership. There's a little bit of that, I think, at Crewe, wasn't there, in Mike Flynn's last game, although Glatzel sort of played a bit more in behind Austin rather than them as a pair. But there are some forward combinations. Perhaps Drinnan and Glatzel is a more future partnership, because we know we've got Drinnan until the end of next season now.
Yeah, Rob, Charlie Austin then, as Paul mentioned earlier, 199 career goals. He's included the ones in Australia, and I wouldn't, because they're goals, let's be honest. 12 goals, 6 assists so far this season. And I have to say, Saturday's goal was an absolute beauty, wasn't it? A fabulous cross and a centre-forward's header. Doesn't get a lot better than that, does it?
Well, you said it all there, Vic, to be fair. I mean, the cross was of outstanding quality, wasn't it? And unfortunately, there were too few of those balls put into the penalty area over the course of the 90 minutes, because if we'd have had that quality on a couple more occasions, I'm sure we'd have ended up winning the game. But it's a poacher's goal, isn't it? It's a poacher's goal. You look at strikers and you think, are you going to be in a position where you can put the ball in the net? And 9 times out of 10, the times we've worried about Charlie Austin since he's been back at the club second time around has been because he's been trying to be all things to all men. He's been trying to play outside the penalty area. He's been trying to play down the flanks. He's been trying to play everywhere but the place where we need him. And I just think back to the Rochdale game away last season when he scored 4 fantastic goals. We ended up drawing 4-4.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, it was the centre forwards play from 10 or 15 years prior to that as Charlie Austin. He was just a complete class apart. And on his day, he although the legs aren't quite what they used to be, and although the brain might still be working, but the legs don't quite take him where he needs to be, he knows where he needs to be inside that penalty area. And if we can supply him with the ammunition, he will still score you close on 20 goals a season. I think he's going to get 15, 16 this year by the end of it. And for a player of his age who hasn't really received quite the plaudits, I don't think, that he may have deserved over his time here, because he's been the one you can never doubt has tried his absolutely as hard as he possibly can during his time. And he really wants to succeed with Swindon. I'm sure it hurts him as much as it hurts any of the other players out there that this season's just drifted away into what looks like a lower mid-table obscurity.
Yeah, his passion shows, doesn't it, when he does interviews. Sean says some fans were moaning about the subs. It was 2 subs that led to the goal. Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely. I mean, the thing is, Andy, it's not just Charlie's presence in the opposition penalty area; it's his presence in the home penalty area as well, isn't it? It's his physical presence.
I think we've said on a number of occasions, certainly before the transfer window, Charlie Austin was our most effective, defender at corners and things like that, because of his experience and obviously he's good in the air. And I think you've definitely seen a change to him since Flynn's gone. I mean, Charlie's attitude is you can tell he's a leader on the field again, and his appetite for the game has improved massively. I think it was a challenge when Flynn was there. I'm not sure that he was really enjoying his football. He certainly is now, and yeah, and in the years he's putting a shift in, isn't he? So yeah, very good.
Yeah. Charlie's had not a lot of service all season. Surely it's simple. Get balls into the box and he'll score. Too many players pick the safe option of backwards or sideways because too scared to lose the ball. Be brave and try to look to play forwards. Paul, you'll notice, I mean, I don't know if you do notice, but there's a lot of shouts of forward on Saturday. I know there was some coming from behind me. But people want to see the ball go forward, don't they? It's that simple.
Well, yeah, no doubt. I mean, unless you're passing with a purpose, and that's the key, really. You don't just play across the back 4, 5, 6 passes, switch in play, unless your thoughts are we're waiting for that opening to play forward. So whether it's 2 passes, 1 pass, you should always look forward. All the teams I've coached, first thought as a defender, midfield player, look forward. Now, if that's not on, then you look to go round or you look to go over. but certainly it is frustrating when players almost look reluctant to look forward first, and as someone just rightly said, they play safe. Well, if you're a creative player, and the good creative players, they're not afraid to give it away because they're trying to be creative. They're trying to expose the opposition. And I think we get a little bit transfixed by watching a lot of TV and seeing Man City and Arsenal and Liverpool, and they keep the ball incredibly well. I mean, Man City are probably the most patient team. Watching them yesterday, and they're just waiting and waiting. But they've got the world's best players. You know, without being disrespectful to Swindon and most other clubs really outside the Prem for sure, nobody's got the players Man City have got. They can afford to be patient because they will wait for that final pass. But lower down the tables, you know, try and exploit the opposition. Try and see if they got weaknesses in their back four. But if you're always playing in front of a back four, and you know, you have to take your hat off to Harrogate Saturday. Yes, they're not going to be flamboyant because again, low budget team. But I thought they were excellent in their setup, in their back four, although not expansive in their fullback areas. They were rigid, and they actually enjoyed defending against us, didn't they? I mean, you could almost see them selling in there. You know, when every cross came in, it was always a blue shirt leaping out and heading it. Not always the best clearances, but they were almost always first contact. Apart from the wonderful cross, which was the high quality that we needed, and who's in the middle, Charlie, to prod it home. Fantastic. So yeah, it can be frustrating, and I understand. I don't know if you can remember back to our days when we went from Lou Macari, very direct, very quick, very aggressive football, to Aussie, and we played a diamond, and it was a little bit slower. You know, Colin Calderwood, Tim Parkin, John Gittins, all playing out from the back, not as much as we do, or they try to nowadays, but there was a real transition, a real change. And I think in the early days, the supporters were sort of frustrated, you know, get it forward. And that's how we used to do it. And it was power play under Lou, and it was successful. We had the right type of players to play that way for over a period of time. And as you step up and play the higher levels, you do need a little bit more quality and a bit more control of the game. And I think Aussie gave us the one step, and then Glenn really took us to the next level to get us to the Premier League. So I think just be patient, long as we're trying to play forward, long as we're trying to create opportunities. So sort of look beyond the first pass or the second. But then, you know, we switched play a few times first half, and I thought it was excellent. Harrogate sort of block up one side, we switch the play, and then it's about exposing that space. Drive into the space. Can you get a cross in? Can you get to the edge of the box? Little give and goes, 1-2s. But the whole idea of switching plays, because the furthest guy has got all the time and space. So it's a crossfield pass, but what happens next? Don't turn back and play negative again. Exploit the space that you've worked for.
Yeah, watching Man City, I mean, it's exhausting, isn't it, chasing the ball? I mean, Man United, this wore them down, didn't they? I mean, any level football you play, if you're just chasing the ball all afternoon, it's exhausting, isn't it?
Mentally as well as physically. I mean, once your brain starts going as well, then your physical strength saps, and then it's only a matter of time. And then they got such high quality. You know, some of the players they've got in their team are incredible. But yeah, it's good to watch. But some people think, oh, is it boring? I think when you watch Man City, it's not boring. It can be a little bit slightly tiresome. You think they'll go and play. Go and play it. But they are waiting. When you watch teams lower down, when they're doing it, intricate quality pass, and be brave enough to try it. You know.
Yeah, Ross McLaren was exceptional hitting the diagonal, says Anthony. We seem to be playing better on Tuesday nights lately. That's one comment. Right, one piece of news today, Mr. Hawes, which I'm sure you will have been following. The EFL fine of £10,000 and a warning over future conduct. And this is Sharegate, of course, where Clem Morfuni sort of sold some of his shares and didn't alert the Football League to that. Was that a surprise that today? That punishment?
No, I didn't think so. I know that there worse people have been worried about points deductions and so on, but I think the precedents were more likely that it was going to be a fine, and so that's proved. It's quite interesting. It's been levied on the owner rather than the club. I noticed, and you go through all the Football League documentation. But yes, if it's more than 10% you sell, you're meant to make it public, and they didn't for nearly a year. The owner has pleaded his various mitigations about needing money in a hurry, stress, and so on, and the league gave those a bit of sympathy. But yes, it's a kind of that was foolish of you. Don't do that again, rather than having anything extra suspended from it. So it's once you've done it, it's probably one of the better outcomes, given you've done it, but you shouldn't really do it in the first place.
How difficult is it waking up every morning thinking, I wonder what's coming next, Andrew? I mean, it's one of those situations, isn't it?
Yeah, no, well, we're at the point where I think that's the second tangle we've had with the Football League this year, when you think about the transfer embargo as well. So you sort of look at these things symptomatically, and it does make you worry about how the club does go forward in the right way in the future. There's no doubt about that. But it feels like there's only so long you can say, oh, we're under stress, it's an admin error. It just feels like things have to be run on a more effective basis, shall we say? So no, I think it's quite stressful for everyone. I do think, although perhaps the social media world's a bit more intense about it than outside, but I think some of that clearly sort of hits people's enthusiasm for the club. It's transferred itself to on the pitch because of the limits we had to the kind of players we could bring in January. You couldn't pay a fee, couldn't pay a loan fee. So I guess it all sort of, it's a bit like I don't know, just something sort of dripping on a rock, and it's that sort of slow erosion of trust and goodwill, I guess.
Yeah, I'll just go back to Paul, remember these days, of course, 1990, etc. Rob, we all remember that, don't we? We never want to see that happen ever again. Right, here's a question. Hepburn Murphy, this is from Lawrence, seems to be very greedy on the ball at the moment. I don't mind that, Rob. Do you? I mean, like last Tuesday, he was quite greedy on the ball. Got 2, could have got a hat trick. If you've got the pace to beat people, wouldn't you have a go?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you will always be accused of being greedy if you're suddenly seeing a lot of the ball and not playing in your forward partners. You're trying to take everything on yourself. But when you're in a rich vein of form, I'm sure all strikers will tell you they just want the ball. Because they're the ones who they think will score. And I would never knock a confident striker, that's for sure. If there's an opportunity to get a strike in on goal, all well and good. I think the criticism for Russian Hepburn Murphy is there have been too many occasions, probably earlier on this season, where he was too reluctant to shoot, or he was just running down cul-de-sacs into blind alleys when there were other opportunities to play in other forward players, or just recycle and go backwards, which would have been the better option. But no, I'd never knock a striker for being greedy. I think if anyone turned around to say to Erling Haaland at the minute, don't have a shot at goal, play in your partner, I think you'd know what response you'd get from him. So I think you can never be too greedy as a striker. You can never be too greedy for goals, and that's what I want to see in all my strikers.
Yeah, Haaland misses one from a yard, but still scores later on. That said it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Still is willing to have a go. We seem to always play players in odd positions. Still can't get why we do it. Half the team don't cross the ball into the box, down to poor quality, I guess, says Neil. Russian Hepburn Murphy, Andy, discuss. I mean, he's got the ability. He's got the pace. He can beat players. You'd love to see him fly, wouldn't you?
Oh, you would. There is a talent. He's got this ability to turn defenders, and as I say, got low centre of gravity. There is a real player in there, and I think a big confidence player as well. And we saw signs of it Tuesday night. I think one of the things that we were doing an awful lot of good, and I think this is down to sort of the new players. We haven't mentioned Devoy, who I think has been a very good signing, albeit on loan. The ability to put the ball down the channel and Hepburn Murphy's runs off the defender. That's causing havoc. I mean, as we said, he got the 2 on Tuesday night, and he very nearly got the 3rd one. It just shaved the post. So I think we don't know what's going to be happening at the end of the season. Obviously, his contract's up. I'd like to think that with a good run in there, and there's a real player there, and with the other players that we've got in, I think he can be very, very exciting. Just needs a bit of consistency. But he also then, as we said earlier, he needs to play. And after 2 goals, we'd like to think he'd have started on Saturday. But hey, there you go.
Yeah. Paul, I know defenders aren't too keen on players with pace running at them, are they?
No, not at all. He looked like he had a point to prove as well, didn't he? But when he first second half, he was just making things happen. But then it comes down to that, just lacks a little bit of quality at times. He beat his man and then cross a poor ball into the box. But he's exciting, and if you're not, crossing balls in or trying to beat the first man, then he's not doing his job, in my opinion. He's an attacking threat. He's got incredible pace, and just almost give him the ball, support him from behind, but tell him, get yourself at the fullback, beat the midfield player, dribble and drive, commit people, get the next man across, and then there should be more space in the box for somebody else. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep believing in yourself. The manager, the coaches, the players around him. If you can get the best out of him, he is such a threat at this level. So keep doing what you're doing. And we've all said it, really. I mean, the fact that he was left out Saturday was a bit of a strange decision. I didn't see Tuesday's game, and obviously I can't judge his all-round performance. But if you get 2 goals and almost get your hat trick, I'm sure you'd be thinking, I'm starting Saturday.
Yeah, and on a muddy pitch as well, running at somebody at pace. Defenders, once you commit them, they're gone, aren't they? Simple as that.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, when players have got pace, you just got to try and get very close very quickly, or just stand off and try and block their lines. It's not easy. And when they're clever and tricky like he is, it's just sometimes that final delivery is not quite there. But I certainly want to play him against him. But no, he can beat most players in that league now. Second division, Hepburn Murphy, I would think, would be much quicker than most.
Fair enough. Let's have a look at the table then. Swindon in 17th with 44 points from 36 games, goal difference of -2. Then come Tranmere, because of course we won the 17th, 18th Cup last Tuesday. Tranmere in 18th, 43 from 36 with 2 goal difference. Salford, 40 from 36. Then come Doncaster, 39 from 34. Grimsby, 33 from 33. Colchester, 32 from 34. And then the bottom 2, Forest Green, 27 from 35 and a -28 goal difference. And bottom of the table, Sutton United, 26 from 36. Andrew, does that say to you it is all about now building for next season?
Yes, I think absolutely it does. Even if you win the last 10 games, that's 74 points. And when Swindon got into the playoffs under Ben Garner, 74 points didn't get you there, which was a bit unusual. But you'd have to win them all, and even then, that might not be enough. So I think that tells you where we are, let alone how realistic the prospect is of us, suddenly producing a 10-game winning streak. Forest Green at the moment and Sutton aren't really making any significant ground. So yes, it does feel like the challenge is to try and clamber a bit above 17th and see if we can produce some sort of at least mid-table finish. And maybe there is that possibility, especially for the last 3 or 4 games, to do some experimenting with those players who you're not sure whether you want to keep or not, and maybe hopefully give some of the youth team players who've done so well perhaps a reward of seeing how they might be able to get on with more senior players around them in a first team environment.
Yeah, it's important, Rob, isn't it? Because a lot of people say, well, just play the kids. But I don't think you can just play the kids, can you? It's not a thing you can do wholesale. So it's bringing them in individually, and giving them an opportunity, like Andrew says, perhaps in the latter stages of this season.
Well, for anyone who does say just play the kids, think back to Accrington and that last 8 minutes of stoppage time when 3 came off the bench and all of a sudden it almost turned into a complete calamity. So it's no disrespect to them, but obviously they need to play alongside experienced players so that they can be talked through the game to some extent. Obviously, at that level, you're effectively learning every time you touch the ball, and every time somebody makes a run, you're learning. So you need to have that experience alongside you to be able to show you where you need to be. And obviously, the better of the younger players will thrive in an environment like that. The players who may be a little bit behind the others, you'll just see them shrink a little bit, and that's not what you need to see. You need to ensure you have a balance at all times when it comes to trying to play at this level. Because let's be honest, it can, when you talk the old adage of men against boys, at this level, experienced pros make a huge difference. And whilst you need the younger players in the team as well to give the legs a little bit fresher, we've been talking throughout the first half of the season that really Swindon were lacking leaders. They were lacking that experience. Okay, Charlie Austin was there, Fraser Blake Tracy maybe, but you're struggling to mention anyone else with a significant number of league appearances behind them. And that was one of the telling factors as to why we had a poorish run in October, November, December. The type of players that you need to balance alongside the youngsters and those players coming through playing their first season at professional level, that balance wasn't right. So we have to make sure for certain as we go through these last few games, if we are to play some of the younger players, then we need to make sure we maintain that balance of experienced pros alongside them.
We seem to have lost both Andrew. Oh, one of them's back. That's okay then. Thank goodness we got those 21 points in the first 9 games. Otherwise, we'd be in real danger. Been an appalling cock-up of yet another season. I mean, Paul, one of my bugbears over the years, and it remains so, is the lack of a football combination. Because you all know when you're playing days, and younger players had the chance to play against some really top people in those games, didn't they? And that seems to have been a problem with football in the last few years. Is that a point you would agree with?
100%. We touched on it on Saturday. I don't know if it was with Andrew Sean at the end of the game, where I said, these young pros, and talking about obviously Thursday's game as well, where some of these boys will be given pro contracts, but where do they play their next level if they're not ready for the first team? Generally, we put them out on loan to clubs that perhaps are they really suited to what the main aims are for them. A combination team was perfect. Maybe there's a B team where you've got first team pros dropping down, and then you integrate, as Rob touched on there. It's no good putting like a whole under 21s team, perhaps playing a B team, because you need that experience. You need them voices. You need the bodies around you to help you through them games. And the combination was perfect. You'd play at Football League grounds as well. So you got the experience of playing at super places, not just training grounds or non-league grounds. The preparation from a youth team player to into a first team, there's a massive gap. The category 1s and 2s play in the elite sort of under 21 league. But even that, I mean, I've watched so many games, over the years, the last few years with my job with Wales, and they're like testimonial friendlies. They're not really preparing the players for their first team, nowhere near. Some loans work, but there's a definite need, in my opinion, to either have a B team or a combination and get that in a league structure where you're learning to win games as well as still develop.
Yeah. Paul said, he's back. Paul says, saw Paul Bowden's first game in the county ground against Arsenal in the combination. So there you are.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had Steve Aberley on last week as a guest. And he was a player for Swindon for 3 years. And he was saying how important it was to play against the likes of Tottenham, Arsenal, all these teams in the football combination. If you weren't playing regular first-team football, you were still getting a chance to play against some of these great players that you get in the combination. And
the other thing with that is, if there's a regular game, whether it's a midweek or a Saturday, at least the lads know, there can't be anything worse. I can't imagine being a young professional nowadays, training every day, but not having a target where you think, I'm playing next Saturday or I'm playing next Wednesday in the combination. That's my target. That's where I'm going to try and peak for in training, so I am perfect for that game on next Wednesday or the combination on Saturday. To train day in, day out and hope you're going to be part of the first team when realistically there's more experienced players around you. You might even be on the bench, for 4 or 5 games, which seems good and everybody thinks you're doing well, but actually your fitness levels are probably dropping a little bit because you're not getting the match exposure or the match tempo training. Because you can train all you want. We all know training, you can never replicate as much as your training sessions at top quality, you can't attain the levels of playing on a Saturday or a Tuesday night. No chance.
Absolutely. I'm doing a lot of work on the 68-69 season at the minute, and looking through the old programmes, there's a list of the football combination fixtures, and you think, boy, oh boy, there were some crackers in them days. Right, Andrew, let's go around and talk about the next three games then. Mansfield Saturday, of course, Accrington at home, and then Doncaster at home. This weird thing where we're having two home games in a row comes back again. I know Tranmere was rearranged, wasn't it? So that's kind of, speaks for itself in a way. But what are your hopes for the next three games?
I think Mansfield is the proverbial free hit that Andy mentioned. Accrington and Doncaster around us. Accrington are in a bit of flux. They've not had some good results recently. Obviously, John Coleman, who appears to have been there for all of our natural lives, has finally gone for the second time. So they're on a bit of a drift, it appears, towards the end of the season. And I think Doncaster have probably been one of the underperformers of the season as well. Really, I think there was one point almost last month where we were on Grant McCann watch just to see whether he was going to hang on for his job or not, having only arrived in the summer. So Mansfield's difficult. You would hopefully be able to target, 4 points at least from the two home games. Anything you pick up at Field Merrill, although as Andy says, we do quite well there on occasions, is a bit of a bonus.
Yeah, Rob, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, this is Swindon, so everything that Andrew said to go out of the window. We'll go and win at Mansfield and lose both the home games. That's what sort of happens with Swindon, isn't it? So it's I don't know. I think anyone who's seen Mansfield play this season, aside from the game at the county ground, will have seen a free-scoring, free-flowing football game. So hopefully that's what we'll see on Saturday. And we maybe not leak quite so many goals as Harrogate did or Newport did a couple of weeks ago, but hopefully, if they can just show that bit of attacking flair, Mansfield do concede goals. So there isn't. I don't call that a total write-off game for me. I think there is an opportunity there for Swindon, but it will be very, very tough, of course. But you look at those two home games and you say at this stage of the season, what do those teams have to play for? Well, Doncaster probably won't feel quite secure yet, and I agree with Andrew there. They are serial underperformers, it seems, at this level over the last couple of seasons. I was expecting an awful lot better from them. Accrington, no one's going to forget the last 10 minutes at their place in injury time, let's be honest. But the first 90 minutes, Swindon wiped the floor with them. Were superb on the night. So there is an opportunity there to pick up a good haul of points. I won't give you a prediction as to what I think there will be because I'm a Swindon fan and I'll say there'll be 9. But I suppose in your heart of hearts, you've got to look and say 6 points out of those 3 games is a good return.
Nobody will ever forget how cold it was at Accrington that night either. That
True
was,
enough.
Warmed by the 2 free hot chocolates that they gave us, which is very nice. How many times have we faced sides who've just sacked their manager this season? Well, they sack managers a lot, Andy, don't they? Managers seem to go a lot these days. But what about your thoughts for the 3 games?
Well, similar to the other gents. I mean, as I said, Mansfield's a free hit. Accrington, funnily enough, I know we played really good football up there. I'm going to say 4-0 up at 90 minutes. But I actually saw a side there. They were dangerous and what it proved in the last 10 minutes. So let's face it. You be happy to get a draw at Mansfield, and 2 home games. They just go out there and enjoy them. There is no real pressure now. Gav Gunning can probably now sort of, let's say, experiment, because I think that's what he has been doing. And if he's got all the minutes, this minuted thing gone now, what's our best lineup? And play some adventurous and attacking football and get the crowd on their feet for a change. We haven't had much of that this year. And let's go and enjoy the 2 games. Has to play some aggressive attacking football. What I'd like to see, one thing we haven't mentioned is our friend Zach. I can't pronounce his surname. He came on on the game on Saturday, and he made a difference, didn't he? And if you're going to play the good old-fashioned Charlie Austin and even Drinnen up front, let's go back to the old ways, getting the ball down the byline, down to the line, cross it over, and get some headers in, as Charlie did. So, and that'll also help if you've got muddy pitches, by the way. Let's go and enjoy these 3 games. Points, let's go for 6 points.
Yeah, fair enough. Daniel says play 3, win 3, score 3, concede 0. Okay. Anthony says 2 away wins all season, tells you that soft underbelly. I mean, the problem is, what is it? How difficult is it, Paul, to get end of seasonitis? Do you see what I'm saying? Even you think, well, we're safe, we're not going down, blah blah blah. Is it easy, or do you try and keep a positive mindset?
Well, I think as a player, you should, and you have to take responsibility for that. You know, you mentioned it earlier about players' contracts. Are that players going to be released, or are they going to get offered new deals? And a lot could happen in the last few weeks. You know, where players who might be in the imbalance, are we taking him? Are we not taking him? Are we offering him a new contract or not? Well, these are the times now where you stamp your mark and you say, I want to stay, and I'm going to put in some really good quality performances in. And I can just sway that decision that I get offered a new contract. So, allied to that, Gavin Gunning, 8 games, I think 2 wins, 2 losses, 4 draws. You know, he'll be desperate to get some win under his belt as well. So, all round, I still see that there should be a real positivity. I know it was a little bit slack on Saturday and not the ideal perfect game. It'll be a different game Saturday. You know, they're not Harrogate. They're not going to sit in. They're not going to play deep and try and counter-attack you. Mansfield, a champions elect. They got a great chance to go up this year. Cloughie's been there a number of years. He's built a really good squad there. So they'll be coming at Swindon, and Swindon have got to be prepared for a real positive, impact from Mansfield. So it might leave the door open in certain areas. So I think it'll be a tough game. Don't get me wrong, because they're at the top of the table because they're a very good team. But I think there'll be a little bit more open space for Swindon to exploit.
Well, we beat them at the county ground earlier this season, so why not? Scott Lindsay's great diamond. You mentioned the diamond earlier. He used a diamond last season, I seem to remember, as a formation very effectively. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Somebody I think you know quite well, Paul, is on tomorrow night, Colin Calderwood. I think you might know him. Have you played with him once or twice?
Yes, what a lovely gentleman, top man. And I know Chris obviously still got a soft spot for him. Oh,
No.
Great professional, and one of the nicest men you'll ever meet in football as well.
What a captain as well. Extraordinary, wouldn't he? Did a fabulous job. Looking forward to chatting him and speaking to him again tomorrow night at 7:00 on the sofa. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your attendance this evening. And once again, Paul, we send you our very best wishes and are absolutely delighted with your news. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you to everybody, and look forward to seeing you all soon.
Yes, you might be. Well, actually, I think you should be a regular member of the panel now, don't you, Chris? I think we should sign you up.
An honorary.
He enjoys his Monday night with us, so yeah. Thank you ever so much. It's been a really good night. As Vic said, yeah, Colin's on tomorrow night. I've just been messaging him, actually. We're just having a conversation. So he's, as you do. He's confirmed for tomorrow. So that's all good. So please join us if you can. If not, we will see you next Monday when we have Keith Scott on. Down to the Prem days. Was it the Prem?
Yeah. Scored the goal against QPR, didn't he?
Yeah. I was doubting myself then. So yes, he's on next Monday with us. So, but if you can join us tomorrow, please do. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all soon.